Hey all, Taves here, back playing some more Planet Zoo, and this is episode 3 of my Canadian zoo, Tiguidou Zoo. So in the last episode we added some of the entrance area, we built out this car park, we ended that episode with kind of no way of the guests getting in. It was a little bit of a challenge, and you see me kind of playing around with this here. There was a couple of people mentioned in the comments the idea of kind of hiding the guest spawners inside the cars. They're actually a little bit too big to do that. You can do it with buses and things. Some of the buses off the workshop work really well with that. But what I went with was just this idea of kind of hiding them in the rocks and then having the guests kind of look like they're spawning out from inside the cars. You'll see that all in the real-time tour. There's lots of different things going on in this. I actually had a bit of a blitz this week, and so there's loads of things changed, enough to kind of end up with 2 episodes worth. So I have actually recorded a bunch of footage which will appear next week as well. So same time next week, episode 4 will be out. But we're doing a whole kind of load of progress. If you haven't seen these before, as I said, this is episode 3. It's set in a what we decided was a Quebec region last week. And in so sort of French Canada, although I'm not going to obsess over the French part of it too much. I've done a few bits and pieces here and there, but the gist is really that it's like a taiga region. It's a country. It's quite small little zoo, and heavy on the detail, lots of prettiness and stuff, and just trying to do things that I'm kind of enjoying. And I have to say I'm really enjoying. I think like most people, I go kind of in and out with Planet Zoo. I have my days when I'm really kind of on it and really loving playing, and then have my days where everything feels like it's a little bit too hard. But that's nothing to do with the game. The game is still incredibly good at allowing these sort of levels of creativity. So here we see me creating what was initially going to be a toilet block. Unfortunately ended up working out that you can't get guests to spawn behind a toilet block and then use the path. So I ended up just kind of inferring that it's a toilet block, and hiding a guest spawner inside or out the back of it. And this works pretty well, and again you'll see this way better in the real-time tour. As with most of these episodes, there's loads of stuff that kind of gets left on the cutting room floor, as it were, and you'll see what I'm doing here is pretty much just showing you the broad strokes of everything that's going on. So we've added this little block. I've hidden my little spawner behind it. I've done that with a bunch of the cars. I'm now pointlessly obsessing over some of this tiling, so I created this kind of tiled floor to go inside this building. I've tried to be really conscious in this episode, and actually going forwards in making sure that I'm keeping things on a little bit more of a modest scale. The actual entrance building that we created last week is pretty huge. Not really like in terms of its ground footprint, but in terms of the height, it's really quite big and grand. I want to keep everything else a bit more modest. So yeah, that little hut is very small. It will actually be up on the workshop with a bunch of the stuff. Pretty much anything you see here, if I'm creating it as like a little modular set. In fact, actually that brick pattern that you see that I've used on the hut there is a build set that I've put up on the workshop. I've done that with a couple of things. That will be in the collection alongside this. So really, yeah, 2 things that are really happening in this project. In this episode, is obviously getting in the guests, and then a bunch of more detailing around. What I'm doing here is laying a pathway, setting in a pathway for some backstage access. So what we've got so far is guest access into the zoo, but no kind of vehicle access into the zoo. Obviously, for a zoo, you're going to have cars and vans and lorries and all sorts of things coming in and out of the zoo. So this is what I'm doing here, and I don't get too far into this, just kind of putting in this fence and this gateway, what ends up being a gateway. a little dividing section. Eventually this is going to be a loading dock back here, and probably where my sort of my animal quarantine area is, kind of hidden in this woodlands. So yeah, blending some of that path back into that boundary. Now you see we've got that little fence there, and there's a lot of detailing and a lot of foliage work happening, lots of stuff getting cut out as we kind of zoom through. But I kind of wanted to make sure these little bits are not neglected. This is the whole point of doing a much smaller scale zoo. If you haven't seen one of these episodes before, I'm using one of the scenario maps, and the advantage of doing that, and I've talked about this before, but the advantage of doing that is that it's a smaller scale map, and it looks slightly different to the other Taiga region generic Sandbox map. So I'm actually using, I think it's the Red Barn River Zoo, which I started from back in episode 1. If you've missed that, then scooch back and have a look at those at some point. Yeah, so loads of little details. As I said, there was various different iterations of that fence there. It looks pretty simple in the end. But I kept having... if you see that kind of... I've created that one there that you can see behind that little corner, was just kind of stripes. And that was my initial plan. But what you've noticed as you move away... is that when you move away from an object in the game, it switches to like a lower res version of it, and the lower res version of that, if you've only got that amount sort of sticking out, just completely has it disappear, unfortunately. Moving on to a gate now. So as I said, this is entrance into a backstage area. It's probably not going to be the only access to this for vehicles from outside. I may well infer another path, not for guests and stuff, but another way into the back of the zoo, sort of off map to this. This gate will be on the workshop as well. Quite happy with this. These little kind of bracket things that come with the new screens are really handy. Got lots of purposes. You'll see me actually use those quite a few times in this episode, just to create these little kind of brackets and angles and things. So we're starting to work our way back up that path into the loading dock. The loading dock itself is not going to be in this episode. This is a bit of a bitty one, I have to say. Lots of little bits and pieces. Obviously, I'm trying to keep these episodes fairly regular. But it's been, I think it's now been 2 weeks from the point at which you're watching this. It'll be 2 weeks since the last one. So I'm trying to keep them a bit more regular than that. But as I said, it kind of isn't when the inspiration hits me. So yeah, as I said, I'll try and keep them all regular, and do my best to guarantee that happens. So creating this little water filter area, as I said, there's supposed to be a toilet behind that block. That is the water filter that I created for Seal Beach. Again, that's in the collection. So just kind of inferring that there's some water movement and plumbing and that sort of thing there. That little fuse box you saw just then actually is I can't remember the name of the creator, but again, that's linked in the collection. Little gates and little things and little bits and pieces, little details, some piping. There's going to be I think we end up with like a little, what's supposed to be like a little intercom system on this at some point. Again, all of these little details are important to me, but maybe not that noticeable. So we are now inside the main building. So entrance building that we left off last episode. If you remember, I had kind of linked off the what was going to be this kind of little conservatory bit, left it all kind of ragged. So I tidied that up there. We're now working on the main skylight, trying to get some shading and stuff like that in there. So we create this little, what would they call this? Like a blind, like a hanging kind of Venetian blind. It's got a little bit of a sag to it using the bunting ropes. So then I'm creating this little control system. So just some little handle that can, basically the idea is it's like a wire running in a channel there that you can adjust from the ground. Down then at ground level, again, we need some more. Basically, these are big windows. I'm not doing this too much on every window, but because this is obviously a big expanse of glass and a big kind of footfall area, I'm trying to make sure that there's some shades and some blinds and things, and mostly really just to add some detail. If you've seen my stuff before, it's all about It's all about the detail, obsessing about the detail. We've got a big screen in there, which I think was in the last episode, but I never talked about it. But yeah, putting these blinds in, some are open, some are closed, so they're different sort of shapes. Working on, I don't know if this kind of works, you'll have to let me know what you think in the comment section, but creating this kind of light fixture, it's supposed to look like it's kind of a, almost like a sort of sculptural art fixture that just kind of hangs in this lobby area, mainly just to kind of break up the height of the whole area. It's a big old building. I wanted it to feel a little bit more intimate. Right, so we're moving towards the end of the speed build now. As I said, usually there is a tour after this, so there will be a little real-time tour at the end of this. Creating this little fountain, which I think came out quite nicely. I think I talked about this in the last episode, but I just wanted something to kind of break up this edge. This is the entrance into the plaza. I've done this a few times before. Really what I'm trying to do with that, it looks a bit odd, but I've used the fountains because I just kind of want the water. And you see I've kind of hidden away the actual fountain pieces of it. And just to give me the water surface. I do another little weird thing in a second with this because I end up kind of hiding the water away, and the water looks really good in certain angles, but when you haven't got the light hitting it, and this is quite shaded a lot of the time in the day, so there's actually the water landing on it. Now, I decided that I wanted it to kind of look like it was sort of cascading down off of this. It's supposed to just look like it's being sprayed down, so angling some of the fountain pieces down and having it kind of look like it's collecting at the bottom. I'm putting some glass in here. Again, this might look a bit weird, but it just gives it a little bit more of a texture. You can't colour the water in those fountains. But I think once we kind of hide it away with some foliage and stuff, it looks pretty decent. Anyway, we are coming to the end of the speed build, peeps. So hang around. I will give you a little, as ever, VIP walking tour once this is done. So yeah, see you in a sec. Right, peeps, welcome back. Thanks for joining the tour. So we are, this is pretty much where we left it last time. There is the big entrance building. You'll see details and stuff as we go around. But I just want to zoom around here. So I've just reopened the zoo. So yeah, they're not perfect, but that's the idea, that they kind of look like they're coming out from the cars. Obviously, they're coming out from behind the cars, but not a great deal I can do about that. Now, it depends where you've got the angle, I guess. If you've got the angle kind of in the right place, maybe you can believe they're coming out from the cars, all coming out from the cars, like a clown car at a magic show or something, or a circus. Anyway, right. So yeah, there was quite a lot of fiddling around to get that working, mainly because I wanted to keep this dirt texture here. So you can see there's a few places where you can just sort of see the ground path coming through. But I think it turned out all right, and that's definitely a better version than having a spawner somewhere or a big tunnel. I changed this up a little bit, made this a little bit more rougher, put a tree in. Here's my kind of implied toilet block. I'm having to kind of accept the fact that they're losing their ankles a bit in there, but I think that actually works better as a spawner. So I've now got, they can obviously go back to their cars, or they can leave looking like they're going all into the same toilet. This one works better, as I said. It just kind of, as you'd have seen from the speed build, they just kind of walk into the back of it. Obviously they go through the doors and disappear out the back, and the spawner is hidden in the rocks back there. I think as a concept that probably is a little bit cleaner, but I didn't want them all to look like they're coming from the same place. So if we do a little spin around here, obviously we'll do a flyover and we'll look at some other details and things as we go around. So here's my back gate. So as I said, this gate will be the entrance, or the staff entrance, or kind of loading bay entrance from this side back to this kind of loading bay quarantine area. We just stick our head through there. Hopefully we don't glitch up on top of this. No, we made it. So as I said, I kind of thinned out some of these stuff in the trees. I wanted to make sure that none of this is viewable. from the guest path, but as we go up the path there, I want to make sure that no one can see in this. So I kept some foliage and things here, but this will give us an access route into the rest of the zoo. That's my boundary there. That's the edge of the park. So I can't do an enormous amount with this. I've just got to do some clever stuff with the terrain shift and the trees and things to keep it going. So this road will head round and end up in various different places. So therefore this can all be pretty scruffy and overgrown and all that sort of stuff back here, which is looking pretty good. There's my little water pump thing. I think it works all right in that spot. As I said, this hut in its entirety will be on the workshop if you want to pick it up, and so will the gate here. Link in the description to the collection. Yeah, just a few little details. Pick that up off the workshop. That's super useful. Fire extinguisher kit, again linked in the description, or linked in the collection, sorry. And then I've had my first real play around with signs and stuff, billboards this week for this episode. So pretty happy with the way these turned out. I think I'll probably have a few more dotted around the entrance areas and things, but I was sort of thinking about what the things you actually see billboard wise in the zoo. So yeah, I did this little kind of Seal Beaches. Obviously we haven't really looked at it yet, but it will be here. It's kind of hidden over in the corner at the moment. One little tip with these is that you get, so the options that you get, backlit options or non-backlit options. Not for all of them. I'm actually using one of the screens here. I think this is actually one of the monitors. So what I did, just to kind of dull it back a bit, is just put a piece of glass in front of it. See how bright that is? You just put a piece of glass in front of it, you'll find that it just kind of softens it off a bit and looks a little bit more matte. So you could do that in the image if you wanted to as well. You could make that image in Photoshop just a little bit more, or in the editing software of your choice, just a little bit less intense. I feel like that just helped to get to create a bit of realism. You get a weird thing, obviously, when you move away, your glass disappears, so it goes back to being a bit more bright, but I think that looks better like that. So yeah, heading up this. So I spent quite a lot of time, as I talked about this, various different iterations of this fencing, because it's so kind of front and center, right near the entrance. I wanted this all to look quite nice and heavily detailed. So loads of foliage work going on in there, probably a bit more floral than I'm going to go anywhere else, but as I said, it's a kind of high impact area. Made this little sign. You'll see this again in a few different places, and I think this is probably going to be my kind of design style. This got bright colours, and the using the actual peeps from the game, I think will help to add some realism. And what I want to try and do actually is do that in all of my signs, is not to use too many actual animals and stuff, to use stuff from the game, because it will make it just feel a little bit more like it belongs, if that makes sense. So rather than using like pictures of actual people or children, did some painstaking cutting out of these children from a backdrop, and actually they're separate images. All three of those were cut out separately. So moving on up. Yeah, pretty happy with the way that transition works now. And as I said, there is quite a lot of thinning out gone on in there. But at peep level, you can't really tell that that's clear. It looks pretty thick back there, and I think this just kind of staggering up really helped make a difference. So we head up this path. So you'll get I'll do a little tour, a little view around in the night as well, so you can see some of the lighting changes I've done. Done quite a lot of lighting stuff this week as well. Just trying to, it's one of those things that it's a bit of a compromise, because you do suffer with the FPS from the lighting, but yeah, it's something I kind of always like, focusing on what it looks like in the night. So yeah, big open gap still at the moment. We have as you saw in the speed build, the little kind of water feature right at the end of the speed build. You might not have caught it, but I actually, same as I did in Seal Beach, the idea that this is sort of just splashing over means that these are slightly darker, so they're supposed to look like they're wet. But yeah, it's pretty simple. I want this to be a fairly kind of modest looking. As I said, it's not a huge, great big massive zoo. So rather than have some massive great big water feature, I just kind of wanted to keep that sort of simple. One thing you didn't see in the speed build, as I said, there's always more stuff than I kind of ended up including, is this little exhibit animal, which I'll look at in a second. But some of these borders, I've carried this path along, so that goes around the side now. Added a little tap and things in there, just again for a bit of detail and realism. The stuff that's made out of the habitat piece. I think that's actually the bike there to get the handle. I've done that before. And then that is one of the new screen mounting pieces. Again, as I said, a very, very adaptable very, very adaptable piece and super useful. So this will head on round, eventually be a staff path that heads back towards that backstage area. I think I did a couple of bits and pieces that I cut out of the speed build, so I did the guttering into the roofing and stuff. So let's go round this way. Oh, little lag spike there. And you'll see. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to break up this wall section. So I added in a little, I think it's a rattlesnake in there. So a little exhibit animal box in there. Do we actually see any of them? There's a whole bunch of them in there, but they're kind of hidden at the back somewhere. And then this is going to be, don't worry about that path going in there, just to keep the guests away from this top lobby, or this top plaza area. This is basically an implied exit. You'll see them kind of doofing over and doing stuff over here. At the moment, there's nowhere for them to actually go. And this won't really be a path because they'll use it as an entrance. But yeah, little kind of implied turnstile exit that I added in there. And so there'll be a path going down that way somewhere. Now backstage access to that little exhibit animal. And if we go into the main building, back into the building, a couple of benches and things in here, pretty simple stuff. I've got a little bit of work to do on this pathing because at the moment they're coming into the side. It's so annoying. They go into the side window and view that box. In fact, I could probably just turn off the window there, couldn't I? That would work. So let's head on inside. You'll have to let me know what you think of this, guys, because I'm not 100% sure about the lighting. As I said, it's supposed to look like it's kind of a I don't know, a modernist kind of art installation lighting piece. But as I said, the main objective was to really feel like it brought the ceiling down. I did that with a few pieces. I did that with this blind up there. As you see, it kind of sags down. We saw that in the speed build. But also adding all these things that are like the vertical lines down, again, just helping to bring the ceiling down. As I said, there's a big wolf picture there. I'm not sure that one's going to stay. I think that's going to get swapped out. More blinds. We'll look at this specifically in the night. And then something you didn't see me doing on the speed build, because I actually picked this up from my community zoo project, was this little adoption desk set. So I've got this, I've created this. Won't be on the workshop yet. This will be on the workshop when I upload that community zoo project. Is still kind of in progress. Some pictures that I picked up from Google, all little matching set. So just supposed to be that these have been donated to the zoo or something. There's my control system that goes all the way up to the blinds there. So that's in theory how they open and close it. It's like a little windy handle thing. Just some little things with, again, little bits of art and stuff. I actually quite like this desk, this little adoption desk, because it's got like the actual like little screens and stuff, and these are supposed to be little leaflets and little iPads and some pencils and things for people to sign up. What else did I do? Yeah, a little bit of detailing up there. So some what are they? Otters, playing otters, kind of up on the kind of rigged up there. Oh, they are. I forgot to say, there's a screen. You'll see them interact. Well, in theory, kind of looking like they're interacting with the desk. It does actually have a path over there, but there's some reason they don't walk over any closer. They view that screen from quite a long distance. But yeah, hidden in that desk is a screen, so they almost look like they're interacting with the desk, but they're not. And then we have another backstage door going back out that way, and then this is obviously all incomplete, but this is where the actual kind of entrance proper is going to be. So this is probably going to be turnstiles or something. I'm not 100% sure exactly what I'm doing yet. As I said in the last episode, it's all about maintaining that view, and this will be kind of bringing us on a path that goes down into the zoo in order to keep that view there fairly unobscured. So let's do a little bit of a look around in the net. Jump out of Tiguidou, and let's turn the lights off. Yeah, so I did quite a bit of work. There's obviously a bit more work to do in this plaza area. The actual car park and everything looks pretty much okay now, light-wise. I think that looks all pretty okay. It's pretty understated. I spent the time going around all the cars and turning all the cars off, all the lights off, apart from that one, which is supposed to be like it's moving. And then yeah, let's go and actually check out the actual building. I did a few bits and pieces in the foliage and things just to give those some highlights. Got a few lights kind of casting up onto the building itself. So if we zoom down inside here, I think it actually looks better in the evening. Yeah, in the nighttime, I think this actually looks a bit richer. These gradient panels, by the way, are actually TV screens that I uploaded a texture to, just to give it a bit more interest and stuff. So yeah, do let me know what you think, guys. We'll go back to daytime. Do let me know what you think of all of that. Obviously, loads more to come. As I said, there's quite a significant amount of more work been done that I've cut out of this video in order to make sure it's not too long, but because I couldn't quite get the bits finished that I wanted to. But yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff being added over here in the next episode. So that should be up next week. Very much appreciate your feedback and comments and thoughts and all that sort of thing. Hope you like what you're seeing. Do let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. It's free for you to do, but yeah, it really helps me out. My name is Toves, and I shall catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy.